Hey Suffolk, how you doing? Afternoon, the Briggs. Afternoon, John. Afternoon, Smoking Fireman. Afternoon, Victorian Piper. And afternoon, Jordan. I'm doing okay. Been a little bit under the weather. Hopefully, nothing too serious, but otherwise, all right. It definitely feels like spring today. It was really surreal today, going out and about, and you forget for a moment about the whole coronavirus thing going on. Got a beautiful spring day, sun's shining, it's brisk, it's fresh, really feels like spring. And then you suddenly remember everything that's going on, and you kind of come down a little bit, and it's very surreal. It really is. Hi, Grimble. Have that when you wake up in the morning as well. That for a few seconds that you've forgotten about the whole virus thing, and you wake up thinking, "Oh, another day. Had a good night's sleep. Great." And then you remember. It's like it really is. It's a new world. It's a new world. I'm sure it was a lovely pipe there, Victorian Piper. I haven't had a pipe today. I've had very little smoke in the last few days, but we shall see. I did load half a bowl of Orlick Golden Sliced in my Northern Briars Canadian, but I didn't actually light it, and I'm keeping it down to a minimum. So we shall see. So today, that's the. It's got some nice grain, this pipe. Well, this block, I should say. We'll see what it produces. Hopefully some kind of volcano brandy type thing. And we'll see how it ends up. Hi Meeks, haven't seen you in a while, hope you're well. You've got panic buying there in the States as well, have you? Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. We've been trying to get some supplies. I wouldn't call it panic buying, certainly just trying to make sure that we've got some supplies. But just my wife's just out at the moment trying to get some basic stuff, just some bacterial cleaner. Not talking about buying 20 bags of the stuff, not panic buying, just one packet of bacterial wipes to clean down surfaces, even that's not available. Just regular shopping. I told my wife that, there's nothing you can do about it. It'll come, will replenish, and people will have done all their panic buying, and hopefully things will get back to some kind of normality. I hope, if things don't get worse. Hopefully things won't get too much worse. Thank you, Meeks. Solani, Virginia. Solani, the ones that I've had and that I've got the 633, which is the Virginia flake, I think. There's the silver flake and I forget the difference between the two, but I do have some. I don't remember which one it is. 633, yeah. I think I do have an open 100-gram tin and a closed 100-gram tin, if I'm not mistaken. Silverflake adds dark fired. Okay, so maybe I haven't had the Silverflake. I think I've got the 633. I think I've got a fair amount of the 633. It sounds like I got a couple of birds doing their stuff on my roof. GMC, how you doing? There is the Solani with Perique. I'm not sure if the 633 is the Perique one or not. I forget. I have it upstairs. Hey Graham Leach, how you doing? Just going to clean the lens a bit. I see it's a little bit cloudy. Hopefully that's better. Cheers everybody. I'm going a little bit slow today because I'm a little bit unsteady, a little bit under the weather, as I say. So I'm just taking my time. So yeah, you're welcome to stay along for the ride. I might take breaks when we get to supper time. So just people might be interested in seeing this again, keep mind off things, you know. I thought I'd take you along for the ride. So I'm just using a Forstner bit to face off the shank. Hey Montclaud, the end is near, the end is nigh. I did see your message, George, thank you, about the dimmer switch. I'm not sure if that's advisable. I'm not sure if they're designed for such high power motors, but it's an idea which I will give thought to. But I'm no electrician, so if he knows what he's doing and he says it's okay, then maybe I'll give that a try. Hey Smurf, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while, hope you're well. Yeah, doing okay, Smurf. A little bit under the weather, but hopefully nothing serious. you doing, Eric? Yeah, Jordan, that would be very, very helpful. I'm a complete novice. Well, not a complete novice, but in these kind of matters I am, and that would be helpful. Cheers, Mix. All the best. Thanks for joining. I'm kind of graduating this, and I'm going to be then shaping it on the sanding wheel to get the shape that I want. I'm going to probably be going for a sort of a curve with a flattish bottom, so that'll obviously flatten out. There should be some wicked bird's eye on there, so I'm hoping to maximize that to have as much flat space as possible to show that bird's eye. The other pipe hasn't arrived, George, unfortunately, no. Right. So I'm not really going to be doing much sanding now, just maybe this junction here. Just the first little bit there to make sure that the transition between stem and shank is smooth. But other than that, the rest will be done on the wheel. Cheers, Kev. Still a couple of tiny little chips there, which I need to sand out. But because they're right on the edge of the shank, I've got to do it together with the stem. It's got to be completely smooth, the transition. I'm just going to speed up the sand revolutions. The Moog Father, Bobby Moog. Still got a teeny tiny chip there. Still got to sand it more. It's got to be spot on. Hey Adam. And still a very slight divot there. Just gonna have to keep on going until that disappears. You can hardly see it. when you start with a block, George, you start off with a block like this most times. If you're starting off with a plateau block like this, so plateau means bird's eye. So if you cut all of this off, you can see all those knobbly bits. That's the end of the bird's eye, and that grain, that's the beginning of the grain. So essentially, that grain travels through the block in a straight line, hopefully, not always, but in a relatively straight line. So the bird's eye, as you cut through a cross section, bird's eye is essentially the top ends. If you imagine taking a bone from a cow and you chop the top of the bone off and you look at it from a bird's eye point of view, look at it from top, you'll see different layers. You'll see the outer layer of the bone, you'll see the thinner layer, then you'll see the bone marrow and so on. You'll see all those different layers. When you look at bird's eye, that's what you're looking at. You're looking at the inner strands of each bit of grain. So when you chop that off, that's what you'll see underneath that. And that hopefully goes up straight, or at least to some extent straight. So when you're starting with the block, you know that you're going to have bird's eye immediately beneath that surface. So what I had here was this exact same kind of thing, and I just cut that off with a bandsaw. So I know on the base there, that's going to be full of bird's eye. Some are better than others, but obviously the way this was populated on this block, I could see that it was going to be really nice bird's eye. You can tell sometimes it's all over the place, sometimes it's got really nice structure, and you can see the veins kind of threading around the bird's eye, and you know that's going to look really nice if you get the stain right. If you contrast stain it right, it's going to look really fantastic once you're finished with it. So this just to show you the contrast between certain blocks and others. So this is another plateau block, but you can see that the plateau here is much less distinct, much bigger. There is some nice structure, sort of the sort of pathways around the nodules, but it's not as tight as this. You can see the difference. You see that? You see how much smaller and closer together they are? So if you end up with it really close together, you could end up with a really, really beautiful straight grain, proper real, what they call angel's hair, or whatever, something like that, angel wings or angel hair, something like that. Really straight, tight, straight grain. I've not yet been lucky enough to have a real straight grain block. They're quite rare. They're very rare. But you can have still some with really nice straight grain. I've had plenty nice straight grain pipes, which I would feel able to call straight grain, but they're just not the highest level. But there are some. You go on eBay, you see some guys selling pipes officially called straight grain, and you'll have on the pipe maybe a couple of strands of straight grain, and the rest of it is all varied types of grain. And it's just, they're just trying to catch out people who don't really know yet, you know, what they want in a pipe. Yeah, pesky little divot still there. When you look at it face on, it doesn't look so deep. I mean, Most pipes you wouldn't really notice that kind of thing, but I notice it, and that's enough for me to get a bit anal about it. So I just need to get that out. Tiny little speck, literally, but it's there. What happens is, as well, is the more you sand it, the more the stem heats up and it starts to wobble a little bit because it starts to soften. So I've got to just be careful as well as I'm sanding, not to do it too fast, and also to give it a break every so often. Still there. It's virtually not there now. I mean, I could get away with that, but you see that it's quite soft. Okay, I think we are there, finally. All right. Got to keep an eye as you're sanding. You've got to keep an eye on the thickness of the shank. You don't want it to get too thin, especially with a 9mm mortise as well. When I was testing out my stamp, the stamp that I recently got, High Piano, I was testing it out on a 9mm, an old pipe which I don't smoke. It was an experimental pipe, and I had it in a drill press with the stamp, and it went right through. It just completely obliterated the shank. I'd forgotten it was a really thin shank with a 9mm mortise in between, so the whole thing just shattered. It was a good lesson to learn, and I'm pleased it was on a junk pipe. Right, so now we've got to drill the draft. And ordinarily, I would have turned this and taken it all the way on the lathe, but I want to try and be a little bit experimental with the shank. I'm not 100% sure yet what I'm doing, but I know that I want to maximize this base here. My drawer of misfits. It's not that bad actually, because what I tend to do is to revisit them. I tend to revisit them and improve them. Don't know if you guys remember this pipe. There's one of my early. It reminded them of the old Chariton freehands. Chariton, I should say. But you can see I've tried to get the stamp, been experimenting with the stamp there. But this is a shot pipe, I smoke it occasionally. Sorry, the connection went a bit funny there. But yeah, a dowel is actually a very good idea. I might just do that. What I'll probably do is use one of the adapters, you know, for 9mm mortises for pipes. So I have a few of those in maybe. That's a good idea, thank you. Show you. Okay, right. I've managed. I don't know why, but these iPhones, they keep connecting from the Wi-Fi. I don't know why. But if somebody could say hi, just to make sure that just one of you, just to say that you can actually hear what I'm saying. Thank you, Victorian. Cheers. Okay, so we're going to start with the. We're going to get the draft hole done. Thank you, Robert. That's good. Right on the middle. Happy with that. It does flex around quite a bit. I could do with getting a better quality drill bit, but it does drill true, because what I do is as it spins, I push the bit in immediately, even before I've started the motor, so it gets it in the middle and it stays there. Once you're in, you're in, if that makes any sense. Good afternoon, Viking. Good afternoon, Rockin' Steady. Okay, so that's that done. So now we need to drill the chamber. So in actual fact, I'm going to have very little room to play with to turn even the top bit of this. In actual fact, this goes higher than that, so I might have to do this on a bit of an angle, come to think of it. I might have to rethink this. Hang on. If I do that there. Problem with that is that I've drilled the draft hole already, so I can't go deviate too much. Well, I'm not going to mess up the drill, so I'm going with the original lining up. It's always the safest thing to do, and it'll have to be sanded completely freehand. No choice in the matter. I won't be able to turn it at all, which I'm not entirely happy about, but what can you do? Hi, rocking steady. Feeling so-so today. Not awesome, but not terrible. Thank you for asking. So I'm going to turn it from this side a little bit and see how I get on. I've got to watch this. I really don't have much room to play with. So as long as I don't drift, I'll be okay. I won't hit that. As long as I keep to that central area. Should be okay. It's a bit of a fur. I don't usually turn from this side. We'll see how we go. It is harder for me anyway because I'm not used to doing it. Maybe it's easier for other people, but I'm just not used to doing it this way. And I'm conscious of this shank that I don't whack it. If I whack it, I've basically ruined it. If I get right at the face end, then I've basically ruined the pipe. So I've just got to be careful. That's why I keep testing to see how it's going to be that I can actually. I'd like to take some of this off, a little bit more of this off. I'm going to have to contend with that edge there. Might have to make a feature out of that, we'll see. Maybe I'll do a straight back. Alright, so I'm going to sand what I can and then we'll take it off. It's a lot harder to sand like this as well. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to do it. No, because of this edge. It's going to be a challenge, this one, that I can tell you. So I'm just going to do that edge if I don't get whacked. Let's see. I think I'm going to get whacked if I try. Maybe if I hold it there. No, I think this is all going to be sanded by hand. The only thing I do want to do is that inside edge. Just not sure if I can do it without whacking myself. Afternoon, Leffer. My thumbs downs are standard fare. I don't even look at them. So I wouldn't worry about it. I don't worry about it, so you don't need to worry about it. Okay, so I've gone up to 800 grit on that top rim. So that's it. The government's just announced here in the UK that isolation now for any household that has one person with it. But in any event, I'm going to call it a day for now. Maybe we'll come back on a little bit later on. I've got to go indoors, so I'll speak to you soon. Thank you for joining, and I'll catch you later.